Michael here at Thorne Brothers. Today we're going to show you how to utilize that super cool lure making wall we have downstairs to build yourself a couple real simple bucktails. We're going to build a single bladed bucktail and we're going to build a double bladed bucktail and kind of show you guys the tools you'll need to do so and sort of how each one of these individual products goes into that bucktail. So first off, in our tool selection, we have a round nose pliers. This is going to be for bending the wire that we need to make our bucktail. This is an 045 wire. It's a little bit easier to bend for demonstration purposes, but we do carry 051 and even 062. Creates a little bit different vibration under the water depending on which thickness of wire you use. We also have a Nip-X here. Once we get everything tied up, we will need to cut our tag ends of our wire. It's a very, very nice hook cutter. This is Nip-X, made in Germany, very high quality stuff. Last, we're gonna need a split ring pliers that will attach our split ring to our wire and also our split ring to our hook. So instead of having to fumble and get your nail in between that little split ring, we have a nice split ring pliers to do so. First off, we're gonna build our bucktail from the bottom up. That's how I think it's the easiest to do so. Some people build top down, but in today's demo, we're building bottom up. So first thing we're gonna do is make ourselves a nice loop on the bottom to attach our split ring and our hook. So this is an R bend. We're just gonna create a little 45-degree bend there. Grab it with our round nose, and I'm just gonna roll this tag section right over the top. And I have something that looks like this. We'll grab the other side, put that same sort of R bend into it. So you got a nice shape there. And what we're doing with all of this is we're just trying to make a very straight bucktail. So when you get it all built, that hook is riding right behind the skirt, right in line with everything. So get our R bends made. I'm gonna grab it here with our Nip-X and I'm just gonna start spinning this wire around itself. And since this is a bucktail and not just a blade attachment, we are gonna spin that sucker around probably 4 or 5 times, just so it can't come unraveled. We have a nice strong build. So something like that. Before we clip our tag end, we'll grab our Nip-X here. Everyone watch their eyes. Get that tagged off. We have a nice straight wire. Next, we'll need our split rings. We have a size 7 split ring here. I like the size 7s. I like a big, heavy-duty, strong split ring. We got our split ring pliers. There's a little wedge inside of that split ring. We're gonna get that wedge right into the middle of the split ring. Once we get her opened up, we'll just roll it right onto our loop we made. Like so. Next, we're gonna attach our hook. Got a 6/0 9617 VMC. Depending on the size of bucktail you're making, you can change hook size, but a nice 5/0 or a 6/0 will be great for most bucktails you make. Split ring pliers again. Open up that split ring. Just roll that right into the hook there. Now we have our hook attached to the back end of our bucktail. So if I let this hang, everything's gonna fall down. Nothing is making it stay straight out. So to keep our hook staying in place like this straight out, we're gonna add a little piece of shrink tube, just a 1/2 inch or 1 inch of shrink tube. We're gonna cut a little piece, slide it down the shank, and attach it so it stays put. Shrink tube, slide it down. You just want it covering the hook, the split ring, and your little loop that you made. So when we hit that with a flame and it shrinks down, it's all gonna stay in one nice tight line. All right, so now that we have our shrink tube slid down onto our split ring and our hook and our loop, we're gonna take a lighter and just hit that shrink tube so it stays nice and straight. Normally I kind of hold it straight up and down and just sort of get it started. And once it starts to shrink down, and make sure everything's nice and straight, nothing's getting off balance, and just keep hitting that with the lighter. Once you put flame to it, it'll get a little soft. and move like this. But once everything cools off, it'll harden up and that hook will stay straight out the back just like that. Once we have all this put together, our shrink tubes on, we're gonna put a weight on for a little bit of weight to keep that bucktail down. And then to separate the skirt that we're gonna use and that weight, we're gonna put one hollow bead. And now we can start putting a skirt on. All right, so I got skirts here from Leaders and Lures. This one's called Dark Knight. It's a black and purple skirt. Once you get the material separated, you can see there's a hollow coil in there. And we're just gonna get our wire right in the middle of that coil and slide our skirt on over the top. Now that we have our skirt on the top, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create that little bit of body here on that bucktail to get that skirt material away from the blade and the clevis so nothing gets sucked up into there. We're gonna start with a couple hollow beads, and this is sort of a preference. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. People have different recipes or formulas for what they like. Personally, I don't really have a preference, but getting a couple hollow beads on there first, getting a lure body next, and then we're gonna end with a solid brass bead so that clevis has something solid to spin against on top, nothing hollow so it can't get smashed or anything like that. So 2 hollows, a lure body, 1 solid. Now we get to add our clevis and our blades. All right, so adding the clevis and the blades, I have a cool new clevis here from Leaders and Lures, the Illini. It's a 1-piece clevis with these speed enhancers. I'm gonna put a number 8 gold Colorado and a number 8 Illini on this bucktail. Our 1-piece Illini clevis, we're gonna add our blades to. We'll start with the gold blade. This is gonna sit straight up and down, so we need to get this blade to sit like that. We do have to get it through that little hole there. If you have trouble, you can spread it apart. It's a little cumbersome, but just put a little force to it. There's our 2 blades on our clevis. That clevis has a hole that runs right through the middle of it. So this is a great talking point. I got the clevis and the blades on there, and the blades are getting into my skirt material a little bit. So what that's telling me is I need to add a little bit more spacing in between the blades and the skirt. So I think 1 more bead will do the trick. Now we'll try it with the clevis. There, that's a much better fit. So now my blades are right at the base of where my material is gonna sit. So when this is flared back in the water, I got nothing touching the skirt material at all. Now we can finish with our loop on the top and we'll have a nice bucktail. Same as before, little R bend, bend your wire around. Another R bend for the other side. And again, I'm gonna do it about 4 or 5 times just so nothing can come unraveled or have any sort of failures. Left with that little tag end. We'll use our Nip-X to cut that off. And we have a nice 2-bladed, custom-made bucktail. All right, so we have our double-bladed bucktail made here. Pretty easy. We're also gonna make 1 more, and that's gonna be a single-bladed bucktail. A lot of the process is gonna be very similar. The biggest difference that we're gonna run is a single clevis versus the double, and that'll allow us just to put 1 blade on instead of 2. So we'll get started, same thing as before. We'll take our 051 wire, or 045 wire I think it is. We're gonna make our loop on the end. Again, we're going about 4 or 5 times around. Make sure it's very secure. Get that tag end off of there. nice loop. All right, next step is going to be that split ring that we're going to attach to that loop. Next will be our hook. Again, we're using 6/0 hooks on these, 5s, 6s, bigger bucktails will even have 7s on them, so depending on the size, get the correct hook. Get the hook attached. Next will be our shrink tube. We're going to slide that shrink tube, it's about an inch piece or so, down the shank, over our R-bend, over our split ring, right onto the hook shaft there. Next we'll take our lighter and just start shrinking that down. Once we got that attached, we're going to let that sit for a second so it cools. Once that shrink tube cools off, it is going to make a nice good connection so that hook is perfectly straight behind, not getting any sort of curve to that bucktail at all. Once we got that done, we're going to go to our weight. We're going to add a 3/8 ounce egg sinker onto this, and then a nice hollow bead to separate that egg sinker from our skirt. This one we're going to build with a Glow Tiger skirt from Leaders and Lures. Got a couple glow flash pieces in there. Awesome nighttime skirt. So you can find that coil and slide that coil right down the shaft of your bucktail there. All right, next we're gonna make that nice little space in between our skirt and our clevis so nothing gets stuck in there. Start with a couple hollow beads. On our double bladed one, we learned that 3 was the right amount. So we'll get 3 of these hollow beads on here. Good base, that's gonna be followed by a lure body. These are a 1/4 ounce brass lure body, again from Leaders and Lures. Lure body, and a solid brass on top for that clevis to spin on. Solid brass beads we're using are 5/16 of an inch. And then this will be the biggest difference from our double bladed one that we had built to now we're going to do a single blade. So instead of using that double clevis, we're going to use a single clevis. We're going to do a single number 8 Colorado gold blade on here. Blade on the clevis attached like so. And we're going to slide this down our shaft of our bucktail. Like so. We'll get another bead for the top. I like the smaller brass bead for the top, just so you got a little separation in between your clevis and your loop where your line's going to be attached to. So, got that on there. Blades are sitting nice, right tight down to the skirt, but not on top of it at all. We'll make our last little loop on the top, and we'll have a fishable single-bladed bucktail. The R-bend. We'll finish it off with our loops. And again, about 4 or 5 times around. Trim our tag end with our Nip-X. And we have a nice single-bladed custom bucktail built, ready to go. A couple of custom little bucktail projects. We did a double-bladed and a single-bladed both. Very nice and easy standard bucktails. You can take this and run with it as far as you want. You can put blades off the back, you can put bigger blades, more blades, stagger them. This is just a nice, easy introduction to building your own bucktail that you can get out there and actually catch a fish on something you made. So our lure wall is very extensive. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. Stop on in, talk to one of our employees. They're all really well-versed in building bucktails, and they enjoy doing it. So come on in, check us out. We'll be glad to help you out with all the tools and all the supplies you'll need to build your own bucktails.